Play right when we're live. We're live. Marc, Mac, how we doing today, brother?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
Good to be on here with you. Hello, everybody. This is Kevin Hopp, Hopp Consulting Group, resident and chief cold caller here at Kixie as well. That's my job. That's my title. This is what we're doing today. We're making some live cold calls. Marc, Mac, who are you? Let's give one minute overview. Maybe people haven't met you before.
Some people say I'm like the OG cold caller. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old. No, I've been doing sales for 27 years, and come COVID, it just changed. It changed from face to face. I mean, I've done phone years ago and phone in between. I used to spend a day in the office before I went out and like making calls and setting up meetings and stuff. And now it's just been the most magnificent transformation of going from having to drive around New York City all the time and then to be working in my office here in the house, my man cave actually, is the idea that I could touch hundreds of people in a day that I could never have done before, and I'm internationally known. I come to rock the microphone. Got to bring out some New York, but yeah, it's been real, I've been on these cold call competitions and stuff with Jared and the crew at Rev Genius. And I just think like, what I'm really excited about, what I'm passionate about is just helping others get over humps, like fears that they have about the phone. I think the phone is the fastest way to get results. I mean, in combination with those other things, obviously.
For sure. Awesome. Love it. So we're gonna be jumping in here. Like I mentioned earlier, everybody, this show is sponsored by Kixie, which is your all-in-one outbound sales telephony solution. Incredible features like parallel dialing. We got connection boost, so our numbers are not going to be coming up as spam likely. And it's very deeply, natively integrated into basically any CRM you got. What do you got? Most people out there have Salesforce. Yeah, check. HubSpot. This is the best dialer known in existence for HubSpot. Pipedrive, and a number of others. Kixie is an incredible telephony solution. Thanks for sponsoring the show today. Without further ado, why don't I kick us off making some outbound dials to CEOs? I'm going to share what I'm looking at right here. This is my Kixie Power Dialer. As soon as I hit resume dialing, I'm going to be dialing 3 people at one time. I'm going to hide my screen as we go because we don't want to be blasting out everyone's information here. But boom, we are in the queue. The phone is ringing. So that is good. Marc, talk to me a little bit about Carrot while we're waiting for a connect here.
Yeah, so Carrot was a company my owner here had been through a couple of building a couple of 3 different companies over the course of the last 10 or 15 years. And he took those companies to pretty nice size valuations. Each time he did it, he realized during the course of trying to outsource his business development, it failed miserably each and every time. And part of the reason why it failed is because they were primarily focused on either very, very one-dimensional. So it was either they were going to do cold calling, or they were going to do an email campaign, or SEO, or Facebook ads, or whatever it is. And what they were doing internally in terms of sales and marketing didn't really align with those outsourced partners too well. And once they understood that really it's about lead migration as opposed to lead generation or sales versus marketing, it's everything working in concert so that you can move that prospect along their buyer's journey, right? And so sales and marketing come into play at various points. Everyone says, oh, well, sales does their sales and marketing does their sales, if you will, right? No, you guys are all going after the same total addressable market, but how you approach them and contact them and when is it the right time? And so that was always the big problem, right? And so they
Yeah.
boiled it down to basically a very few things, right? It's about finding the right person with the right problem at the right time. The time thing is what everybody doesn't really get or can't get because it's a moving target, right? And so if you are
Hey, it's Jeffrey, can you hear me? Oh, I thought I had one. My bad.
Yeah.
Look,
So
we'll keep him in sequence, and I'm going to call him right back another day. Okay. What was that?
I would actually call him right back. If you could do a redial, I would call him right back and be like, I'm sorry, man. I thought I was saying hello. I thought you could hear me. I apologize, and then get right into it. Because he picked up the phone, so it's a phone ready lead.
I actually think it might have been the voicemail that popped before that.
Either way.
Yeah.
Either way.
I'm a big fan of that.
So that's the crux of it, right? And so this time thing is what everybody has a problem with. And so, what we've done is we've built a company around 4 major buckets, right? So you have this market research and ICP refinement. A lot of companies out there really don't know exactly who they're going after or haven't really narrowed it down. And why are you going to blow money on cold calling and technology and all that kind of stuff before you actually understand who is it that I need to be going after that's going to bring me the most return? And so you figure that out with market research, right? And then you figure out where all these people are living, and then you employ those, lead generation team, sales and marketing, right? To do cold calling, emailing, SEO, blogging, whatever it is across the board. And once you identify people who are engaging with that content or are interested in maybe having a conversation, then
you gotta love when their voicemail is, "Hey, you reached Ben," and then it was like a pause. So I heard Ben in my ear, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Ben," like that was not Ben, as it turns out. Frustrating.
So like you've got. So then you have that, right? And so the other thing too, what I kind of brought to the table a little bit and kind of built out a little bit of is, if you're so one-dimensional, like as an outsourced partner, if you're so one-dimensional, then for example, like at some of the other companies out there, they're all about that meeting, right? And so whether they're performance-based fee structure or otherwise, it's about the meeting, right? And so what happens when you sit down with a customer and they say like, okay, what's your conversion rate? Like how many first meetings do you have to put somebody into the pipeline? How many of those do you close? Certain percentage. They always lie, right? They always are like 30%, 50%. And some are right, some are wrong, some are off. So we always conservatively estimate when we're doing an ROI like 10%. and so here, under promise and over deliver in that sense. And so here you have this like, you now have like you're tied to this company by just doing meetings. And what happens when they don't close the meeting? Who do you think they're going to blame? They're going to say, oh, the meeting isn't qualified. It's this, it's not, it's all your fault. And then they don't renew. Right. The other day we were talking with Kevin Dorsey. He said, ARR don't mean crap, because if you can't deliver impact to the customer and continue to do business with them and renew, then that doesn't really mean anything.
That's right. I could not agree more.
Yeah, fabulous. And
just so everyone knows, I am dialing right now. This is a live dialing show. We're trying to get live conversations going here.
I'm gonna have to kick it off.
The phone is ringing. Marc, why don't you hit go on your side, and we'll just go whoever gets a live call first. You cool with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to do cold calls live on what do you call it? So now I have to look at this screen. I can't look at you. Wait a minute. I got to move this over here.
Logistics, man. Logistics.
Well, it's funny because I've been there, where like I'm not on the screen and like it pops up and I'm like, I hear the person say hello and I'm like,
who is it?
How you doing? This is Marc. What's going on? Until I get back to the page, Um,
No, I totally. So that's why, I don't know about you, but my process is very specific. My process is I say the same thing every single time. I try to say the same thing every time, unless I hear them say something different in my ear.
sure. I mean, for me, it's like I don't know. I'm working something new right now. I just started a new client, so I probably shouldn't work this particular account, but people know I have it. Yeah, I find okay. So then to add to the piece is like you're locked into these meetings, right? And so what happens? So now what I'm doing here, what we're doing is we're spending a lot of time with our client, going to their discovery calls, listening to their clients, talk to them and do, business reviews and stuff like that. So we can intimately understand how this customer sells and what he's doing. And then, we found that because we've gotten really good at doing discovery calls and what have you, we watch their discovery calls and we're the meetings that we set up. And
Yeah.
I watch how those unravel, right? And I get feedback from them about their process afterwards. And so now I become more of a consultant in the sense that I'm going to provide to you a little bit of what we call playbook optimization, right? So what is the talk track? Do you really take a prospect through after you do a discovery call into a demo, into whatever other recommendation presentation you're going to do down the line to actually sell to them? Right? Like, how do you really structure all that to close at the highest ACV and have some stickiness with that
Hey,
client?
this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting. Is this Bart? Bart, can you hear me? Yeah, I got you now. I got you. Bart, I can tell right away here. I think you're in the car, huh? All right. Did I catch you? Yeah. My name's Kevin Hopp. We never met before. I'm with the company called Hopp Consulting Group. So, did I catch you hands free? Do you have a minute for a conversation, or should I let you get back to driving? What do I need from you? I need to understand if you can have a conversation right now about business stuff, right? Business. And I got your number because I work exclusively with co-founders of technology companies. So I found your number as someone that I wanted to reach out to. So I work directly, as I kind of mentioned, with B2B SaaS companies to help them establish a strong calling culture, doing stuff just like this actually inside of their companies. And it's all about structure, process, and of course, leveraging best-in-class technology. I'm curious, Bart, would you say that your sales organization has a strong calling culture today? Right on. Any like feedback as to why you don't have a team that makes outbound calls, I'm guessing. Oh, well, awesome. Well, Bart, congratulations. Very happy for you. I hope you have some golf and some good whiskey in your future. All right, Bart. Bye-bye. Okay. You guys will never guess why Bart, who is the CEO of a tech company, why he wouldn't take a meeting there. Can you guess, Mark?
Actually, to be honest with you, Kevin, I got one that came through and I was hearing him and hearing you, and I had to mute myself here and I couldn't really hear him with you talking. So I had to
Oh
hang up on
man.
him and I missed like the first couple of seconds of the call or first minute of the call.
We go 10 minutes into the live with no connections. We both get a connection at the same time.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Uh,
how it works. So
so I think at the end, or more like yeah, like when you asked him twice, you don't have people who are calling, or you don't have a sales team who's calling, however you phrased it. Um,
yeah.
my guess is he either was confused by the didn't answer you and you asked it again, or he said no and you then kind of gave him that whole Sandler thing, which is like, what do you mean you don't have a sales? I don't know if that's
Yeah.
Sandler, but
So what Bart said, he said, I called out number one, which I'm a huge fan of. I hope everybody learns from this moment, right? If you hear
please.
someone's in the car and if you ever spent any amount of time on the phone, you could hear what the speakerphone sounds like in a car. Always call that out. always call that out, right? It's going to be the number one thing that's going to ruin that interaction because
Absolutely.
you're just, oh, salesperson, I'm going to make my pitch. I'm going to make my pitch. I got to get my value props out. And they are thinking, dude, I'm driving, and they might be doing this, right? Which is illegal in
You don't
most
want that.
states. And so you got to check that right then and there and get rid of that objection, because that objection will be what I call a false negative.
Absolutely.
False negative is when someone says, I'm not interested, or thanks for the call, or no, thank you, not something we're interested in, but they don't actually learn about what you're calling about. We don't talk about business problems and valuable solutions. We don't even get
because they're focused. You could tell that they're focused on something else. And driving is you have to focus, right? And
That's
so
right.
if you don't, and my thing is with that, I'll say something like, so sometimes people will say, even in the initial piece of it, you cut me off, I'm in the car, but that's okay. And I'll be like, okay, your hands free. Cool. Like I kind of acknowledge the safety piece, and use that as a nice guy intro, kind of like, okay, I respect that you're driving. If I'm happy to call you back.
Right. So
Otherwise,
I hit that. You might not have heard it because you're on mute doing your own call.
It was crazy.
So let's wrap this up. So the reason Bart couldn't take a call, he said, I'm not a good prospect for you. I said, oh, why is that? You know what sales team? He said, I just sold my company. He said, I just sold my company. I'm in Idaho. I just picked up my brand new boat and I'm headed to the lake.
Beautiful. What lake?
I didn't ask what lake, but I asked if he was going to play golf, because I know in Idaho there is beautiful golf there.
Absolutely.
So Bart is out of the game, guys. He won.
Yeah.
He sold the company. He's done. Good for him.
Yeah.
Onward and upward. I'm back in the queue, by the way. My phone is ringing.
You definitely you have to acknowledge what's going on always. Like and that's just normal talk, right? Like if you called your buddy and you heard him in the car, you'd be like, oh, where you going, bro? Yeah. Like I might even say that. Hey man, where you going? Where you headed? Oh, we're on a business trip. You could learn so much there, and you'd be surprised, especially in the car. I don't know about you, but when I used to be in the car and I would get on with people who like were salespeople or whatever, I would miss my exit.
Right? You just end up talking to him. You just end up talking to him and forget. So Lindsay's got a question here. Do you try to learn more before asking a meeting when you finally get them on a call? Absolutely.
Oh my God, yes.
So to that point, Lindsay, the way that I and Marc, the conversationalist Mac here, the way that we advocate for doing outbound calling is not just showing up, pitching, getting a meeting right away. It's about the conversation. And the conversation itself, that back and forth exchange of information, is extremely
Hello, Robert.
valuable. Oh, let's go.
Robert is Robert Bergstrom. Hey, Robert, how you doing? My name is Marc Mack. We don't know each other, but I was calling for a specific reason. Are you still president operating Press Tech Group? Fantastic. So, Robert, the reason I'm reaching out, I work with a number of CEOs. I have conversations with CEOs very recently, like yourself, presidents, who tell me that if they had a little bit better insight into some of the different parts of their business, that they feel like maybe they'd be able to weather this upcoming recession storm a little bit better. So I wondered, when you think about your finance team and the kinds of data and analytics they deliver to you, do you feel confident going into the next few months? Yeah. Are they forward-thinking finance folks on your team there? Oh. Ah. I see. So the home office is in Germany. Is it the same name, Precitech? I'm sorry, I thought I did. Okay. I imagine they got a full finance team out there doing all of their back office stuff. Yeah. Well, okay. I don't think it's a good fit for either of us, so I'm going to bow out of this call, but I really thank you for taking the call with me. By the way, I mean, as president here, as a local sales team, I imagine you might have a network. My company is called Amplify. We're actually a finance as a service company, essentially. So we have a couple of high-level CFO, Fortune 500 CFOs that you can get access to on an as-needed basis, for high-level strategic financial management, performance analytics, those kinds of things. I wondered who, if you had to guess in your network, might be able to value, find some value in that, who would that be? Yeah. I was thinking in terms of your network, the people you associate, other presidents, other VPs, CEOs, other companies. Oh, I respect that. Oh, you don't have to do that. You just tell me the name of the company if you think they can have some, find value in what I'm talking about here. But no, I respect that, man. Listen, Robert, thank you for your time. I'll let you get back to it. Take care.
All right. All right. So this is actually a really pro move. I hope everybody watching takes a lot away from this because you got on the phone with somebody. We were having a back and forth conversation. A lot of reps think that anytime you get someone on the phone, you got to go for the kill. Coffee's for closers. How come you didn't close that one for a meeting, Marc?
Well, because he's just a local sales office and it wouldn't go anywhere. It'd be a tire kicker to me. Like I have to kick it up to Germany and sounds like, that's not really a good thing for us. I mean, it's in our ICP, but it's not obviously I didn't happen to catch that it was a German base.
Yep. So I think the takeaway there, the lesson that we can learn from that interaction is sometimes it doesn't make any sense to set a meeting, even if they got on your list, even if you put all the time into doing the research, even though you get them on the phone, and even though you had the long conversation, doesn't make sense to set the meeting. And that's actually something, Marc, that I try to teach this to SDR teams. So I coach, train, develop, build SDR teams for a living. That's what I do. And a lot of entry level SDRs, anytime they get someone on the phone, they are like going for the kill because they're like, I got to set the meeting. But that next level skill is knowing when the meeting is going to turn into business and when it's worth chasing and worth, booking, and when it's not. And it can be a good idea not to book a meeting.
Yeah, and I think it depends too on what you're selling. I mean, the other thing you have to realize, like there's this gal at my old company, Ricky, who used to have basically her account was to set up these calls with parts managers at local auto parts stores and stuff. So it was kind of one call close type thing. But, she would actually pitch the meeting like before in her opener, like basically like, hi, this is so-and-so and I'm from here. And, we understand that you have to, you might be selling your parts online. And if you're interested, we're setting up demos to take a look at our platform so that you could sell your aftermarket parts. And they were like, okay. And it was just like, it was like, she was pitching the meeting up front. But I mean, in those cases, in her case, she didn't need to learn about who they were, to be honest with you. She just needed to understand whether or not they wanted to move parts. But, in a more sophisticated sale, of course, but I've even seen that even in more sophisticated sales, like there's a little bit of that, like upfront contract you could talk about. Like I'll say something like, if you like what you hear, then you could decide to, we could take a call at a later date. It's more convenient for you. Otherwise you can tell me to go pound sand, and so they'll say, okay, and then you pitch and then you get into it. Right. And you don't even have to necessarily, again, schedule a call because you do a little bit of discovery. You find out maybe this isn't really a right fit. Why set a meeting?
That's right. Right. I'm back in the queue, by the way. I am dialing on my side. All CEOs, all founders, all of them. We're going to have this conversation about calling culture.
So no VPs of sales, I guess, because, I would think that would be a good market for you in the sense that, I mean, you could always digress to that VP of sales from the founder or CEO, or whatever, get the referral because it means a lot more to their business. If you're targeting a lower startup to seed stages or seed to series or whatever.
These are all A and below.
Right.
Early.
So 2 people in the company, you're probably getting the founder. And
or
maybe one other salesperson.
A lot of these 30 people in the company, 25 people in the company. Maybe they have a head of sales, right? Yeah. But the head of sales. So here's what I found: the head of sales will be a guy that we talk to. Will be a guy that I end up talking to, but the founder's been paying attention to like the market and this idea that like calling is not dead, right? Potentially. And the head of sales is very, very focused on driving product market fit and doing a bunch of other things, right? So I always get involved with the head of sales, but the founder, if I get the founder's ear and they lean forward on my pitch and say, well, tell me about that. Okay, what's going on? Then that tells me so much more about what's going on inside the organization. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's
David, how
immediate.
you doing? Hello? Oh my God. Are you serious? The guy's voicemail was, hey, this is David. Leave a message.
Yeah. So we work with company. We work with, we'll work with our customer, like that VP of sales or the AEs in our companies that we work for, and like help them get better on their discovery calls so that they close more deals that we handing it to them. Right. So that's the playbook optimization piece. And then the final piece is revenue operations, right? If you don't have the proper technology and the proper funnel in place, then you can determine where you're winning and where you're losing. And be able to kick back to market research or the lead gen team about like what's working and what's not working, then you have it all, right? That's a complete holistic approach to business development, sales development, or essentially revenue acceleration in a sense, right? I mean, you can accelerate revenue also after the process, right? When you already have the customer and how much more you can get out of them and those kinds of things. And that's a whole nother, conversation. But the top of funnel piece is where people like, and so many heads are, it's like, if it wasn't for sales versus marketing, there'd be nothing to talk about on LinkedIn, and it's like, it's not sales versus marketing, it's sales and marketing or smarketing or reviting, like, my friends at Reviting talk about. And that's really the key to and the team that we've built includes that Rev Ops as a service, includes the lead gen piece and the market research piece. And the consulting and playbook optimization we do, as a bonus. And so that's it's been really successful. I left where I was.
Hey, Harrison, how are you? Yeah, this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Look, I know I'm calling you out of the blue. We never met. They catch you with a minute to have a conversation, or you heads down on something right now? Great question. The reason I was reaching out specifically to you, I work with B2B SaaS companies to help them establish a strong calling culture inside of their sales organization by leveraging structure, process, and of course, best-in-class technology. Harrison, I wasn't sure. Do you have a strong calling culture in your sales organization today? I have you down as working at Ideas by Nature. Is that accurate? Oh, okay. Are you now at a B2B tech company or taking your career in a different direction? Love it. Well, Harrison, enjoy your chilling. Cheers. Okay, Harrison is no longer at the company that he is at, which is annoying because this list, by the way, let's talk about structure and process, right? So everyone that I'm calling right now are people that I have taken the time using a partner to validate these leads, meaning somebody went through individually line by line and said, okay, Harrison, look at his LinkedIn profile. Does it still say that he's currently at this? Okay, cool. Do we verify triple that this is his phone number? Yes. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he left it open on his LinkedIn that he's still at this company is going to confound my efforts there, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a step that I like to talk about because it's really, really important to ensuring that you're calling the right people at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, exactly. For that matter. Hey, Alex. My name is Marc Mack. We don't know each other, but I was calling for a specific reason. Are you still operating Ivy? Oh, okay, cool. You know how many people have sold their business and changed jobs these days? That's why I had to ask. If you wouldn't mind, I work with a number of CEOs who've been recently. I've having conversations with CEOs and founders of companies similar who have been telling me that if they had a little bit better insight into certain areas of their business, i.e., profit margins, margin per line, et cetera, that they'd feel a little bit more confident going into this upcoming recession. I wondered, when you think about your finance team and the data and analytics that they're giving you, are you comfortable with making those kinds of decisions to weather the storm? Yeah, you have CFO for a long time there? Okay. All right. They hang on. They hang on, but I don't know. So I was going to say to you, one of the things that I employ is always, not always, but I like to confirm that they're there. Like if I haven't done that research, obviously, and sometimes I don't even care. But even if somebody has done it for me, you don't know. Like you know how many people this week I caught that just changed jobs in July and August? I mean,
A lot.
yeah.
A lot.
So I kind of do that. Plus, a lot of times when I do that up front, like I'll even sometimes say, like Alex Janukulis, right?
Right.
Gianakoulis, I think it is Janukulis. Just this, because they like hearing their voice. There's
For
something
sure.
to they like their name. Oh yeah, that's me. And then I'll go like, are you still in charge of, or are you in charge of this? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm in charge of that. What do you want to know? It's like, it's that kind of reaction, right? Like they kind of
Yeah.
perk up and they give their ego, no matter who they are, right?
That
Male,
makes sense.
female, young, old, whatever. And so then you could say, oh, okay, great. The reason I'm reaching out, and that's this particular customer I'm working. I've been playing around with this particular pitch because somebody was talking the other day. I think it was even the same episode, Kevin Dorsey on Whiskey Wednesday, was like, recession is the reason why people should be meeting with you. Those people are going to double down on the things that are working for them or things that they
Right.
need to have work for them. Now's the time to do it.
That's right.
Don't get
Right.
like, whoo, the recession. And by the way, people talk about this. It's probably not even going to happen. Like, it's happening, but you don't even realize it. And what it is really merely a correction, right? It's not an '08. It's
No.
not an '02, an '08,
No. And I hate the R word.
2014.
The R word scares people unnecessarily. For guys like you and me who make a career on getting people to think about change and change, the R word really slows things down. It throws peanut butter into the engine. So
Well,
I appreciate if the media would stop talking about it.
I'm going to say
Nancy's
this.
got a good question here too, by the way, when you're done with your point.
No, I would, but not, that wouldn't be my first question. It would be exactly what Kevin said, which is, where are you now? How's that going? Is it bigger and better? Is it better for you? I'd be digging into where he is now, land that piece, because it still could be applicable, right? I mean, get in on his mind at his new location. And if he's looking for a job, you asked Jared, I did this the other day on their cold calling competition.
Yeah.
I pitched Rev Genius to them. I'm like, are you looking for a job, man? Go there, blah, blah, blah. And so, but then I might at that point be like, hey, and by the way, you know who actually took over your position? Now, I probably wouldn't ask that question if he said I left 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
If he said I just left in March, I'd ask.
Totally.
Anything past last year, the year before, they probably don't know who took over.
So I think the lesson there is capitalize on where you are right now, which is on the phone with this person. So the first question, to Nancy's point, that I would ask is, what are you doing right now? Which is what I did on my last call. And then you can always get to who do you know that replaced you. And the reason you don't, like, the reason that I don't go directly to that, Nancy, by the way, is if you jump directly to that, remember, they might have gotten fired. They might have gotten involuntarily terminated. And you asking about their last job just is going to make them spicy and pissed, right? I've been fired a few times. And if someone called me and asked, hey, like, talk to me about the company you just got fired from, that you were unexpectedly fired from, and now you're upset. Now you're in this state of, uncertainty. So you got to be careful talking about their past role, but you do get to it. Here's another question for us by Shravan.
Before I get to that, I was going to say, like, I worked for a company that let me go, and a couple of months later, I started selling the same product to the same customers who wanted to buy it directly from me, and I just worked out a deal with the old company, and I used to get calls still right? And they'd be like, and somebody would be like, well, I was calling for Impro. And I'm like, yeah, that's, what are you looking for? Right. I'm like, I'm not there no more, but I can still help you, you know, and I would get business that way. And I built a business out of that. What's your best approach on a cold call to know if he or she has a budget ready and ready to roll out the solution?
So,
well, wow, that's a good question.
So I'll give my quick take, and then you give your take. So Shravan, my take is cold calling is not about buying. It's really not. Like, look, might be a hot take, right? Hot take alert here. Like, cold calling is not about buying. Like, the reason you want to cold call somebody is you want to learn and have that conversation. But if you dive into budget ready and rolling out solutions ASAP, then we start to think about, you know, the buyer's pyramid, right? Are you familiar with this concept, Mark Mack? Of course you are, right? You've seen this before for everybody at home.
Yeah.
So if you put your entire total addressable market into a pyramid and talk about, you know, what percentage of your market is actually looking to buy at any given moment?
1%.
Yeah, it's 1 to 3%. 1 to 3% is actively, they have problems, they're looking for solutions, and you stumble into conversations with them. So if you make your script all about just like, hey, how's it going? You ready to buy today? What's your budget look like? I'm ready to roll you out tomorrow. You're only going to have success 1 to maybe 3% of the time, probably 1% of the time.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, I think it depends on what you're selling, right, Shravan? I don't know if you're in a one call close type of thing, but I'll say this. Even like I have another client of mine who has to do a Google Analytics upgrade, right? Everybody, Universal Analytics is going away. You got to go up to GA4. If you don't already have upgraded, you're losing year-over-year data as each day that goes by, right? And so when I talk to somebody using that pitch, or when I get them on the phone, because we just started on it, I'm like, well, what do you need to do it? Yes, we need to do it. And they usually are like, well, how much? You know, and I'm like, well, on average for a very basic integration, it's $4,500, and it'd be about 6 to 8 weeks to get it done. Where can I send the contract? You know, that could be in that industry, in that market, for that particular part, it could be a way to go, right? And so, but never talk about budget. Like, depending on if you're an enterprise deal or any of everything else that you know out there other than one call closes, it's definitely, you definitely don't want to do that, you know. And and you know what, inherently what the biggest problem in the industry is that people, that comes from management, right? Like, I could tell he might be a young fellow, but that comes from senior leadership and how they produce in terms of the culture. Like, what are they producing in terms of culture? What's important to them? And the way I coach my team, or people outside of my teams, are, what did you learn today? Not how many meetings did you get, but what did you learn? Like, I gamify, like I have a gamification theory. Anybody wants to know, just hit me up. But my gamification theories allows me not to burn out. It allows me to look at every single call and understand what I learned from that call. Just like we do here, we're breaking it down, right? What did you learn from that call? What did you do good? What did you do bad? What did he say? How did he say it? And a lot of people don't they say, oh, I'm listening, but you don't hear, right? So what I mean by that is when somebody goes, I am no longer in that role, and your initial reaction,
I'm in the queue. Keep going.
And your initial reaction is, okay, who took over? You know, that's not hearing. They say, I'm not in that position anymore. That doesn't necessarily, if they were in a position of authority and they're not in that position of authority anymore, well, geez, they probably now are in charge of that person. That's, you know what I mean? And so why blow it by immediately going to who the person is actually that you want to talk to? Talk to the person that's in front of you.
That's right. Right. And it just comes back to this idea that conversations are king. Like, that's what I'm really obsessed with. And that's like I've got a list of golden rules for cold calling. I talk about it in my online course. I'll drop a link in the comments to my online course that goes way nerdy on all this, hours of content in there on cold calling. But conversations are king. And it's the idea, exactly what you're saying, Mark, which is, we're not just calling to drive revenue and do this and do that and do that. If all we need to do was reach out to people and say, are you ready to buy now? You should just be using email, because you can touch 5,000 people with one little click, and you will get a 0.1% response rate. Well, that's still two people a day that are saying that they're ready to call, but there's a lot of negative side effects with that. And you're not learning. You don't learn anything when someone doesn't respond to an email.
Hello, Paul. Is this Paul Byerly? Paul? Hello, Paul. Is this Paul By? Is this? I'm looking for Paul Byerly. You can't hear me? Can you hear me? Oh no. I'm not muted.
Can't hear you.
Is it interfering here?
I doubt it.
I had the conversation before, right? So yeah. Yeah, you know,
You lost him off the hook there?
what's that? Yeah, he hung up.
Yeah.
To ask about career. Yeah, you know, I it's always good. The people who don't have jobs now or who just left a job and they're a leader. I've had some really nice conversations with those people, you know, and I didn't necessarily learn something about my market per se, but in all of them, but some of them they'll just talk to you, be like, oh no, you don't want to talk to those guys, they suck. That's why I left. You know, like that could be the case too, you know. But it's always about the conversation, and so yeah, and you know, again, it's I got into this, you know, I love, you know, I'm doing the things that I do in the communities and whatever, because I really truly believe this isn't really a scary thing. I think one of the things that I was going to say about you also is, and this is for everybody out there. I don't got to say this. This sounds very cliche at this point, but it's about tone and how you sound and how you inflect your intonations. My God, Kevin. Are you going golfing or what are you doing out in Mexico? You know, like, you know, you're at the gym. Are you doing bots and try?
Harjinder? Hello? Harjinder, how you doing? Ooh, I'm gonna call you back. Wow. You gotta love when people pick up the phone and like that guy was like, I think he was getting into his car. I heard the car thing. I heard a kid yelling in the background, and then music started playing.
You know, those kinds of things I'm okay with. You know what I can't stand is when they answer the phone and they're in a conference call, like in their office, let's just say for argument's sake, and they have that on like the speaker. So all you hear is the other person presenting in their meeting. And
Unbelievable, right?
And they're like, hello? And I'm like, oh, it sounds like you're in a meeting. Yeah. Okay, what's this call regarding? You know, and I'm like, I'm going to call you later. You're best to just like not even talk to that person and don't even say your name, for Christ's sake.
That is something, Mark. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That is something that I've talked about on this show before, and I hope anyone who tunes into the show takes this to the bank. Do not pitch people who are busy, and you have to be proactive. You have to be defensive of your time when you call. But I also wanted to point out what you're talking about here, Mark. Pace, volume, tone, and energy. This is the kind of stuff that makes elite cold callers elite.
Sure. You have to be careful.
Way higher.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to be careful. There's two areas there that you have to be real careful with: volume and energy. And what I mean by those two areas, I mean together, right? Because some people are like, you know, you can't be like, hey, this is Kevin Hopp from so-and-so. And the reason why I'm calling, you know, it's like, no. You know, like sometimes like, I'm not saying go so far as to do the Ryan Rice. When you whisper to him, that's another way to do it, right? But like, you know, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like, you know, but I do that. Like I'll bring the conversation down. Like it might start with a little bit of energy. Like, hey, John, how's it going? This is Marc Mack. Hey, Mark, how you doing? I'm doing well. No, I'm reaching out because I talk with a lot of CEOs. Like, you know, there's just a I don't know. Rhythm, I call it rhythm. You know, to me, music is everything, and everything is, I mean, I'm surrounded by music. I love music, and you know, I hear music in symphonies in calls sometimes. And so this particular pitch, by the way, the very first call I made yesterday for the first time with it, the guy was like, yeah, that's a problem for me. And we had a 19-minute conversation and I booked a meeting.
19-minute cold call?
Well, I booked the meeting inside of 6 minutes. Keep that in mind. But I didn't book it. Like I said, I started to learn about his business because he started talking about some of the areas of problems that he has within the business. After I said, are you looking for more insight into your business? He went on and on for about 7 minutes about what's going on in his business, in 2 businesses that he's running. And so I was like, just listening, and then I asked some questions, and then I said, wow, it sounds like this might sound weird, but I might be able to help you in multiple ways. Right?
Hey,
Like,
this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Eric, how you doing? I'm all right, but I'm calling out of the blue. We never met before. Did I catch you with a minute to have a cold conversation, or are you heads down on something? Less about helping. I was hoping more to have a conversation. If you're slammed, I can reach out another time, or we could just talk about it for a minute and get to the bottom of it. But up to you. Awesome. All right, Eric. I'll catch you another time. Cheers.
yeah. So I might have said
Sounds
instead
good.
of
All right. So Eric wants me to call him another time.
yeah. So when you said you asked twice, I said on the second one I would have maybe tweaked it and said something like, well, why don't I just take if I could take a couple of seconds right now to tell you why, so I don't waste your time another time, something like that. Or because you said, did I catch your heads down? And he kind of said, yeah, but what is it about? And then you asked again, and I probably would have said, okay, well, just so I don't waste your time at another date.
Yeah.
Boom, but I love it. I do all that kind of stuff. I do that all the time too.
I'm just so defensive.
It's
like
okay.
I think anybody like us who's a real sicko and like dials a lot. Like I dial a lot, like when you dial a lot, you get I'm so sick of people saying, hey, let me stop you right there. I'm not interested. Thanks for the call, Kevin. Bye-bye. Right. Or hey, oh yeah. Thanks for the call. We're actually good. Take us off your list. Okay. Right. Like I'm a smart guy and I got a lot going on. And like, I got an ego, everybody has an ego. This is something that like no one talks about in cold calling. It's the reason you don't see CEOs doing this. It's the reason you don't see like big name, big dog VPs doing this, is because their ego is not at the place where they can jump in and do this without getting roasted. And by the way, I have like these interesting moments in some of my client engagements where, maybe it's a gray-haired leader. Maybe it's someone who's, has the best closing record. They say things like, oh, put me on the phones. Right. I say, okay, cool. Show up to a dial session. They show up to a dial session with the BDRs and they get on the phones and their pitch is literally like, terrible. Hey, Marc, if you could just give me 5 minutes of your time, my solution is the greatest thing in the world. I'd love to show it to you. You got 5 minutes?
If I had 5 minutes for every 5 minutes that somebody asked me for, right? That's what they say.
I know. And they get slammed on and they're like, oh, what? And it's like, because you got to keep yourself in a totally different headspace to really do this. But I'm so defensive of my time. I'm so defensive.
Hey, Jackie.
On the phone. Let's go.
Hey, Jackie. My name is Marc Mack. I'm not sure I got you correctly. Are you still with Boom Industrial? Oh, okay, cool. I wasn't sure if you were on the ownership side or not, but my name's Marc Mack. I work for a company called Amplify. I've been talking with a lot of very senior leaders and CEOs and founders of companies these days who have been telling me a lot about how if they had some better insight into certain areas of their business, financially, that is, that they'd probably be able to weather this upcoming recession storm a little bit better. I wondered, when you think of your finance team there and the data analytics that you get from them, you feel confident moving into the next few months and some of the decisions you need to make based on that to weather the storm? Oh, okay. Sure. At this number would be good. Okay. That sounds great. I appreciate it, Jackie. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bummer. Hey, Chet, by the way, I am calling you out. I think you are a chicken, little sissy weenie, and you need to come on my show.
The sales doctor, too. Look, I think it's just shots fired. I think it's this. I mean, I think that this is one of the hardest jobs in the world. And really, what is hard about it? It's the first 15 seconds. So those people who really think that they can't do this or like look at sales and go, I can't do that. what they're really saying is, I can't open a conversation cold with somebody. Like, you mean to tell me that, like, when you get married and then you have kids and then you go to their school, that you don't say hello or talk to one of the other parents or something like that? You know, years ago, I would have been the ringleader. My wife is the ringleader now with all that kind of stuff, right? Years ago, when I was social, it would probably be me, and she's the introvert, right? But at least you like, it's about that first 15 seconds or first 5 seconds, you know. And I just find, if you have a framework and you really understand what you do, what you're trying to do, and or what your product problem it solves, and so on and so forth, then it should be very easy to open the conversation. And even the most introverted person could probably, if they have a framework and they're taught how to do it, and they just work at it and practice it, they could be really good, because then they're the people that could slow the conversation down and actually have maybe an intelligent conversation, or even a technical conversation if necessary. Those people will be really good in like IT managed services space or whatever. But like, that's what I mean. Like, I give them, they always say, I wouldn't do that. And maybe they're better off in those other roles. Don't get me wrong. But they have a lot of talent too, that they don't really even realize that, you know, and they think, oh, a guy like me, a guy like you just have to be able to open the conversation. Sure, I'm that guy at the urinal at the Jets game going, dude, did you see that touchdown? You know, like, I mean, you know, if I've had enough to drink. And so it's about conversations, right? And like, if you really think about it, you could get over the hump. Now, are there still plenty of people there banging it and trying to set meetings, or trying to, you know, like this guy Shram, whatever his name is, that said, can I pitch a budget? You know, I grew up in the times of IT consulting back in the 90s. And
hey, by the way, I'm in the queue here.
Yeah, I was too, but it was, then we started talking.
Yeah.
Wish I could give you guys one more good one to sink your teeth into. So I kind of always think about it as a performance in a way, even though I may either be live or not live. Like, when I do it live, like I used to do it on the Discord for Justin Michael's Discord. We started a Sales Borgs back in the day, and now called Hype Cycle or whatever. But it's, I used to do live cold. He did them. And speaking of like a guy getting on his jet, right? Like, we came across two CEOs on a Friday evening, one getting on his boat, another one getting on his jet. We're like, what? So, you know, I was like, and then he just was like, hey, so where you headed? You know, he's like, oh, I'm going down to my house in Mexico. Yeah, nice. On his jet. You can't be afraid to talk to those people.
Must be nice. Well, dude, I would tell him, look, if it's a private jet, you definitely have time to talk. Right.
Well, I will say this. I'm not happy with the connection rate on this. I'm at 60 dials, 5 conversations or 5 connects. Not really. I had 2 conversations, right? But three other connects I hung up on, because one you were talking, and then the other one, oh no, the other one was wrong. The guy was like, I don't know what was going on. So that was actually 3. Thought I set this list up good, and I pulled another one. That's the other thing too. So you talked about data, right? So data is so critical, and I'm going to throw this out at you, because I think one of the things is I have been doing the data searches and polls myself. And I want to set myself up as best as I can. So I actually will look at that list. And I happen to believe, to a certain degree, with my...
Hey, Elizabeth, how you doing? Kevin here, Hopp Consulting Group. No, we don't. We do not know each other. Good call out. And I know I'm reaching out of the blue. Did I catch you with a minute? And I'll explain exactly why I called. Or are you like super busy right now? Yep. No worries. I'll reach out. I'll reach out another time to make it less cold. Do you mind if I connect with you on LinkedIn? Sounds good. Sounds good. We'll have a conversation another day. Oh, wow. That was an aggressive lady. She said, this is a cold call and I don't know you. And I was about to tell her, like, yeah, it is a cold call. But then she's like, I'm so busy right now. I'm impossibly busy right now. I can't talk about this. Yeah, add me on LinkedIn. I can't talk. I got to go. You know, which always, you know,
Well,
Always.
you said the LinkedIn thing. What did she say when you asked her if I could hit you up on LinkedIn?
She said sure and followed up with like, I gotta go. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Which always, one of my favorite things about cold calling, Mark, you find these people who are so busy that when their phone rings at a number they don't know, they pick it up. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're that busy, huh? You're that
Yeah.
busy.
Like I've had people who like will pick up, like talking about the live cold calls again, like Justin, he called a guy and the guy like picked up his phone and he goes, "This is my private cell phone and I'm sitting down to dinner with my children and family." And I'm like, and Justin didn't say this, but I would have immediately said, then why didn't you pick up the phone? Like, how sacred is that to you that you were enough to pick up an unknown number? I probably wouldn't say that actually, but it was just like, yeah, that's like one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, you're in a meeting, don't pick up the phone, especially somebody. Now, I do get a lot of, don't get me wrong, I do get a lot of, because I use localizing numbers.
Yep.
I do get, I thought this was somebody else, or I thought this was my kid. You know how many times I've gotten, I thought it was my kid's school. I'm literally get that every week, at least once a week, once every 2 weeks. I swear. I don't know. It's the localized thing. It's the localized number. That's why they pick it up. So I think that works.
Mark, check your cell phone. Check your cell phone. I've been trying to text message you about our wrap up stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in here. We're going to start to wrap up the show here a little bit. Lots of really, really good learnings today. We talked a little bit about what makes an elite caller elite, right? These are things that you develop over time. If I'm an entry-level cold caller, if I'm new to cold calling, if I'm new to the BDR world, pace, volume, tone, and energy come with time. Okay. That's something that you can't teach in a script. And it comes with, when I make these calls, when I'm dialing out right now, like you could look at my Apple Watch, like we could find out what my heart rate is right now. It's not above 80, 90 beats per minute. Okay. And I get it. I totally get it. Been there. Okay. I've been an SDR. I've been an AE in a new territory. I've been new to companies where I'm making a call for the first, second time, 15th time, 30th time. And your heart's like, you're at like 110 beats a minute. You're 120. You're like sweating. Because if this person picks up, you're so nervous about what you're going to say. It's going to be really hard to nail these, right? You only nail these when you have a cool, calm, collected affect while you're going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'd add that I'd put a little bit more asterisk on the, it takes time and practice and iterations and repetitions, reps, if you will, to really get it smooth and comfortable. And I'll say this though, there are times even where I feel like there's a little pit in my stomach when I'm walking into my office about making calls for the day sometimes, and even back in the day, this was so true too, when I was new to the game, if you will, there was always this idea of just start, just do it, just go for it, just fuck up the first, mess up the first call. Who cares? And you know what, too? The other thing, and I'll leave you with this, those reps out there that might be listening that are new to the game or screwing up calls, let's say, I want you all to go back to those calls and put those calls and those contacts in a folder and call them first week crap, right? Whatever you want to call it. And then 2 months from now, when you get really good, open that folder, call those people back. And what you're going to say to those people is this: "Hey, John, Joe, Kevin, when I called you the last time, I sucked ass. I was the most terrible person. It was my first day, even if it wasn't your first day. It was my first week and I was probably horrible. And I know that you might be interested in something potentially. I don't know if it's us, but maybe I can give it another shot. Would you mind?" And get humble about it or get vulnerable about it. And I guarantee you, if you do at least 10 of those, you'll set at least 1 or 2 meetings. I guarantee. Yeah. If it's right, obviously.
It will happen. You bring up a really good point. And Sean Cease here, good friend here, calling me out because I do have a little bubbly, "Hey, this is Kevin," and I do come out with that. He's calling out the fact that I do that. He wants to hear me start with a flatter tone. A big reason, just to be clear, why I start with the bubbly "hey" is because I'm live. Like, we're streaming live across 3 different platforms. I got you on here. You're talking. Like, everything's going on. So I do the "hey" as a power to interrupt for everybody to stop and listen. Sure. But we should try it Sean's way. So everybody tune in next week. Check it out. Next Tuesday, same time, same place. Marc is going to be making calls on his own in New York, right? You're in New York, right?
New Jersey, yeah.
New Jersey. What's this with New Jersey, New York? Look, you can fit all of New York and New Jersey in Southern California where I live. It's such a small area, but
yeah.
Awesome. So Marc's going to be there, but Maria Bras is going to be joining from revenue.io. Really excited for that. Everybody tune back in and check out the podcast. Go to anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go to Hopp on Calls. You can find the best moments from today's show and audio of both sides of the conversation. Big shout out to our sponsor, Kixie. Thank you, everybody here. And last thing that we have, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at what happened today. We've got the numbers. Hold up. Where is it?
Wasn't very successful.
We've done better. We've done.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think you showed a couple of things. I showed a couple of things. Wow, you're dialing way more than I did, so that makes sense. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I want people to remember, and again, I try to do this, and it's really more in my mind now than actually writing it down, but I would write it down if I was you, is the fact that you can think about when you're having those conversations, what did you learn? Did you get through your opener? Did you handle any objections? Did you get a referral internally? Did you get an external referral? Like I asked that guy about his network. Did you get any business intelligence? Meaning, did you learn about your market, your ICP, your vertical, whatever, right? And then at the end of the day, if God forbid you didn't get a meeting, but you got 3 referrals and you learned a crap load about your industry and your vertical, and maybe you got some warm leads, like that's a monster data to me, because that means like tomorrow, if I do the same kind of thing and I acquire all those future leads, that some of the leads that I got from yesterday or last week or the week after is going to convert. And that's how you build real pipeline, like real, like follow-up pipeline. That is, where you're going to come into a week and you're going to be like, got 30 follow-ups. You got this, you got that. And then you're still going to make the other stuff. You're still going to do the new stuff, the unique stuff, if you will, instead of cold, I call it unique. Right. So you do the unique stuff, and that's how you kind of build momentum. Biggest problem with reps is they go like this,
Yeah. So. Well, Marc, thank you so much for coming on today, man. Really appreciate it. We're going to wrap it up. Everybody, we'll see you next week. Cheers.